Now, IQ tests are very big and important. They are used to evaluate the intelligence of children in schools. They are used to evaluate the intelligence of people inside the corporate work world. And to a large extent, I think that they have a very large effect on political policy, including COVID policy, and I'll get into that later. Now, I know I already have a video about this, but that video got corrupted. I tried to edit it or something and it got messed up, so we're going to be remaking that video here. Now, the big problem when it comes to deflating IQ tests is all the criticisms out there don't actually deflate the IQ test. The criticisms are things like they don't measure artistic capability, they don't measure this type of creativity, they don't measure this, they don't measure that. I'm going to be simply arguing that the specific type of intelligence that they're trying to measure is completely inaccurate and there's gross logical errors. First, we're going to look at an actual Mensa IQ test. According to Mensa, they use these tests in schools. I haven't confirmed that yet, but it doesn't matter because I have an IQ test that is used in schools, and we're going to be looking at that one after. Alright, so we're going to be zeroing in here on question number 11. So, according to Mensa, there's a correct answer to this problem, and if you would like to try the problem first, then pause the video now. And I'll give the solution in just a few seconds here. Okay, so the correct answer according to Mensa is D. And the way Mensa's logic works is they see this shape sort of like a clock. So you can imagine this is like the legs of a clock, right? So you have one leg here, one leg here. So your first one is 2. In the second problem, it's 1, 2, 3. And in the third one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 2, 3, 5. Okay, so according to Mensa, the next one should be D, 8. So what they're doing is 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 2, I'll write that in here. 2 plus 1 equals 3, 3 plus 2 equals 5, and then so it's going up by 1, then it's increasing by 2, and then the next one should be 5 plus 3, which equals 8. So according to them, the 8-legged figure, which is number D, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, is the most logical answer. Now, I used similar logic to Mensa, actually. I saw it like a clock leg as well. And I got the same thing, 2, 3, and 5, to which the obvious answer to me is C. I see a prime number sequence. 2 is prime, 3 is prime, 5 is prime, and these are all sequential prime numbers. Therefore, the next prime number is 7. So we should look for a 7-legged object. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That is the obvious logical solution to me. And it's pretty common that people who are on IQ tests like things like prime numbers too. I've seen them use prime number sequences before. So to me, that seemed like the obvious correct answer. Now, I also gave this problem to my dad, and he's a mathematician. He has a PhD in mathematics and has been teaching math for 50 years. So I think he's somewhat qualified to give an answer in this problem. And he also picked C. And his reasoning was different than mine, though. He saw this like geometrical edges. So in the first one, there's only one edge. In the second one, you have a vertex here. So that's 1, 2, 3 edges. And the third one, you have a vertex here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 edges. So 1 plus 2 is 3, plus 2 is 5, plus 2, next is 7, right? 1 plus 2 is 3, 3 plus 2 is 5, 5 plus 2 is 7. So he picked C for a totally different reason than I picked it. So that's his answer. Now, I'm not arguing Mensa's solution is illogical. It's perfectly logical, but so is my solution, and so is my dad's solution. And if we're going to go by the whole intellectual math authority thing, then I'm pretty sure my dad's argument wins, because he's the only one who actually has any qualification in math. I think that should be pretty convincing that Mensa is not, in fact, qualified to be judging the intelligence of others. Now, I said we're going to look at the actual ones used in school, so let's do that. The following problem is taken from the highest quality IQ tests in Canada, and these are the ones actually used in schools right now to evaluate student intelligence. I couldn't tell you what grade they're implementing these in, but these are the actual ones they're using. Okay, so right here we have 3 problems. This one and this one are from an actual IQ test. And this one is just a random thing I made up, okay? Now, I want you to go up to someone who's an IQ apologist, someone who believes in IQ tests, and ask them why they think the number 1 and 3 are good quality problems for an IQ test, and why number 2 isn't. All right, because from my point of view, I don't think that any of these really measure intelligence too well, right? And then they're going to give you this long rationalization why number 2 is a lot worse. They'll come up with some sort of reasons like, oh, number 2 is culturally dependent, right? That depends entirely on being part of North American culture, right? They'll come up with some kind of reason like that. And then what you tell them is that you lied. Number 2 is actually the real problem on the highest quality IQ test. This is the real problem from an actual IQ test used in schools. Number 1 and number 3 are fake. These are ones I made up. I kid you not, general knowledge is an actual category on IQ tests. And I gave this problem to my neighbor, and he was 13 years old when I gave him this problem. And I said, do you think this is a good question to measure a person's intelligence? And he just said, no, that's stupid. That's completely stupid. And I said, you're right. And this is why you're more qualified to be evaluating student intelligence than your teacher. Now, I already see 2 catastrophic problems with general knowledge. And by general knowledge, what they really mean is scholastic knowledge, because general knowledge is things like, how do taxes work? What time does the playground zone speed limit go into effect and out, right? This is what general knowledge is. And secondly, I don't know why there's any good argument that general knowledge would be a good indicator of intelligence. Many people aren't interested in general knowledge, and they have a very good memory that can retain a crap ton of information, but general knowledge is just not interesting or important to their life. So if you're going to use any type of knowledge to evaluate intelligence, it should be critical knowledge. Can the person understand things like epistemology and logic? And even that, I don't think, is a very good measurement, because those things can often lead a person to really dark places, and ignorance is bliss has some merit to it. So there you have it, IQ tests debunked again. It's not that they're not measuring creativity, it's not that they're not measuring artistic capacity, it's not that they're not measuring this or that, it's that they're just logically stupid and irrational, and they are crazy and make no sense. Now, I said government policy and IQ tests have a large relationship, so I'm going to go into that a bit, into politics of IQ. IQ is becoming super popular again. Jordan Peterson and a bunch of internet guys are all saying that they're the most reliable and awesome tests on earth. And a lot of COVID policy, I think, has to do with IQ tests. I think that Western governments believe that Asians are intellectually superior to them due to IQ tests. And this is true. On IQ tests, Asians do score higher than white people. And I believe that this is why the West has this obsession with trying to copy Asian policy. Here is some proof. This is Harvard University praising the president of Singapore.
Obviously, Lee Kuan Yew, the remarkable leader of Singapore, passed away very recently at the age of 92, and we certainly share the grief of all the people in Singapore, and what a remarkable man he was.
Here is Justin Trudeau praising the dictatorship of China.
Which nation's administration do you most admire?
At a controversial fundraiser dubbed Ladies' Night, Trudeau said this.
There's a level of admiration I actually have for China. their basic dictatorship is allowing them to actually turn their economy around on a dime.
Now, I might make a whole video on COVID eventually, but COVID's a really good example of authoritarian reasoning. I really believe the mechanism by which our Western governments think is simply, Asians are smarter, copy them, copy them. I think that's how they actually think.